I am being told I'm alive? Well, I'm live. Hi, everyone! Did the music stuff get sorted out? I'll assume it did. It is olive time. I will go ahead and start up here then. Alright, so I'll just be cheesy here real quick. So here's the Battle of Olympus. And as you can tell right off the bat, it has a very striking similarity to another game that was played earlier in the Battle of Olympus block. This came out about a year after Zelda 2, and was very, very heavily inspired by it. And of course, the very first thing we get to do is farm some olives. We need a total of 130 of these. Oh my gosh. So the way to split this up over the run is to do it in chunks of 45 when we can, and then cut it down to 40 at the end. Main reason for that is because there's kind of a diminishing return to these. After about 100 total drops between the health drops and the olive drops, you actually get your rates cut in half. So that's why it's good to stop when you're getting close to 50-ish. So that's kind of where I decided that it would be 45, 45, 40 for my 3 farms. And as you can see for the setup here, we just basically get all these slimes on the same spot, and they kind of remember the horizontal position that they died at. So as long as you keep killing them in the same spot as each other, they do this nice little clumping thing that you're seeing right now. And this farm actually had a pretty good setup. Once we get about 45 olives, we're gonna go talk to Zeus. And we're actually getting some pretty sick luck here. Streamer's curse, though. Watch it just go to crap after I say that. Oh, whoops, we got 46. Alright, well, I'm just gonna go after this. Jeez, look at that luck. Alright, so we're actually quite a bit ahead on olives, which is really nice. Means we don't have to farm as much on the next farm. We'll pick up some olives along the way, too. Just because it's nice to cut back the farm a little bit. So here's a bowl. It takes either 4 hits, or you can just ignore it. So here's Zeus's temple, with some royalty-free music. And we're going to talk to him once, and it will allow us to talk to all the other gods. And if we talk to him again, he'll give us a password, and basically the importance of that password is that if you die in this game, you either get the option to continue or retry. If you hit continue, you respawn at the last door that you entered the area at, but if you hit retry, it takes you back to the last password. The problem with hitting continue is that you lose half of your olives. So right now we would either have 24 or 25 olives. I forget if it's rounded up or down. I would assume down, so we'd probably have 24 olives. So basically the difference between a PB route and the marathon route is that instead of talking to the gods once, we talk to them twice for a password when we actually care about our olive count. And a little bit later in the run, we actually won't care about our olive count, so deaths will be okay. So we're heading over here to Argolis. The next thing we need to get are these sandals of Hermes, which allow us to jump higher and also mess with gravity a little bit. There's only 2 bats in this cave that can really mess with us, but there's kind of contingency plans for both of them. That one did the pattern that actually hits us, but the nice thing about when it does that is that it actually makes that jump a little bit easier. We actually, after we got here, turns out Hermes isn't here. He's hanging out back with Zeus. I don't know how we didn't run into him on the way. So we're gonna drop into the salamander pit here. And we're just gonna walk back out, and we're gonna go right back to Zeus's place, where we came from. And conveniently enough, we actually pass right by that screen where we were farming olives, so guess what? We get to go for some more olive farming. Everyone's favorite. We're not consuming the olives, the gods are. Alright, so we're just gonna kind of wait around here a little bit to get all the slimes grouped back up again. And here's a little bit of RNG with how they actually move. They kind of sometimes decide to jump or not to jump. So if you move to the left like this, you can actually see them spawning on the top right of the screen, which makes it a lot easier to set up this farm. And now they should be a lot easier to get like that. And when we hit about 90 olives, then we'll move on. Nice. Something that didn't happen at AGDQ that I'm sad. Never happened. We're getting some pretty solid olive luck here. Another 12 olives and we'll be able to get out of here. Another 10 to go here. There's a few Game Shark codes, well not Game Shark, I always call it a Game Shark by mistake, but there are a few Game Genie codes that you can put in to make it so that you always have 99 olives, and it definitely makes the game a little bit more enjoyable, so if you're ever playing this casually and just really don't feel like dropping the olive farm, I actually wouldn't blame you if you wanted to use those Game Genie codes. I see my girlfriend going up about clown boats. Who said clown boat? Oh, jeez. Alright, so we're gonna go back to Zeus's place and talk to definitely not Zeus, but actually Hermes this time. I don't want to add that as a category, I don't think, Meg. Alright, so now we have the sandals, which both allow us to jump higher, and on some screens basically flip gravity. It needs to have a ceiling, so we can't do it here. But basically, the way jumping works in this game is if you tap A, like, it doesn't matter how long you hold A in terms of your jump height, it's always based on your momentum. Tapping or holding the A button actually determines whether you flip to the ceiling or not. So if you want to get up to the top of the screen, you want to hold the A button to flip gravity. And here's a little bit of a mazy forest. Our next goal is to go kill the Hydra and get the fairy sword. Do a little damage boost there. One of the things that we skip in this speedrun is the Staff of Fennel, which both does a little bit more damage than the club, and it actually has a fire ability that lets you burn the bushes, and it also lights up dark areas. But we don't need either of those for this speedrun, so we just skip it. Here's the Hydra. And we're hopefully going to get it locked in a pattern here. Nothing really too much to this fight, but if it does hit you, it does 2 bars of damage, which can be pretty significant when you only have 8 bars of health. And you do have to take that 2 bars of health to get in here in the first place. Here's the Fairy Sword. It does twice as much as the club, and it actually allows us to hit the Cyclops in the eye. Or I guess the face, I don't know. Either way, you can't damage the Cyclops with just your normal club or the Staff of Fennel, so that sword is actually required. And quite frankly, if it wasn't, I would probably still get it anyway, because some of the fights... Oh, I'm already too far past that. Whoops, I want to be in here, and then... Here we go. Here's another temple here, and we're gonna pick up a harp, which has, conveniently, the ability to call upon Pegasus. It also actually stunlocks the Harpy, which will be very necessary. Oops, that's fine. There's an Ambrosia here, and this is the only health grade we're actually going to be picking up in the entire speedrun. And hopefully I'll get the stunlock that I didn't get at AGDQ. Hey, there we go. A little bit easier when I'm not, like, freaking the heck out. Whoops, alright. So these birds and monkeys are really dangerous. The birds have random flight... Well, they don't have random flight patterns, but they have basically random speeds that they can fly on the screen at. And they drop rocks, and both the birds and the rocks do 4 bars of damage, which is pretty significant when you only have 12. And then the monkeys have really obnoxious jumping patterns. We're gonna buy the ocarina here for 60 olives. The monkeys can delay their jumps very awkwardly and just be a huge nuisance. They do 3 bars of damage. So the ocarina we just bought lets us actually call the dolphins to cross the sea. And we got some lucky birds over there. So we're just going to keep going to the right. I'm actually going to leave that olive because... Oops, alright, that's fine. Now because I actually hit that retry point, or rather I took that password, we actually get to stay here with all of our olives. Ah, dang it. That bird was a lot lower than it should have been, and I just got hit by that monkey because I got knocked back by the bird. Everything is terrible. Oh no, I'm gonna leave that olive there because that scorpion can respawn. I am, however, going to take that bay leaf because, yeah, I need the HP. These fish are random too. They do 3 bars of damage, pretty obnoxious. And so here we're going to fight the Harpy. Her hitbox is really far out in front of her actual sprite. So a difference between the Battle of Olympus and Zelda 2 here is in the actual darkness. You can see the enemies perfectly fine, but you can't see anything about the surroundings. There we go. Whoops, not quite done. Now we're done. There's the Orb of Gree. I just jumped over a death pit, and then we're just going to come back out here and now be free. And yes, the harpy is weak to a harp. Oh no! Sometimes you just die on the ceiling. Alright, so unfortunately, because I died right there, my options were to continue and get cut down to 16 olives, or retry and have to do this whole thing over again. This time, hopefully I don't take as many damage or hits on the way in. Scorpions are being a bit nicer and letting me through. I'm not going to go back for that olive, I don't think. So we get to see the harpy again. And unfortunately I got hit by a rock there, so that's 4 damage already done. Great. And play the harp about right there on the 3rd line. Have to play the harp again to... Ooh, that was close. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, well... Jump over the death pit again. And hope that the birds actually are nice this time. I think if I die again here, I might just hit continue and take the extra olive farm, but we're fine. Okay, so here's the sun pillar that allows us to play the harp and summon Pegasus. That takes us all the way back to Arcadia here. And now it might be a little bit scary because the slimes that we actually farmed at the beginning of the game do a full bar of damage. But the nice thing is, now that we actually have the sandals of Hermes, we can actually just really easily cheese the setup for this farm. So even if they're not very cooperative, we should just be okay. Should be, being the keyword. So I'm just gonna sit up here and dance a little bit. And now we're just gonna keep jumping back and forth like this. And unfortunately no health. I actually would like a bay leaf or 2 here, just to feel a little bit safer, and there's our bay leaf. Now we're not at risk of being dumb and dying by accident. And now we just need to get up to 70 olives and we can keep going. And I'm going to take the farm a little bit over to the right because that door over to the left is really easy to accidentally walk into. Even though we're actually going to be going to the left after this. Did I leave an extra slime over there? No, I didn't. Okay, we're good. 15 olives to go. Dang, if I didn't have those mess-ups in Laconia, I'd be on actually pretty good pace right now. In terms of, like, a more normal speedrun. And we skipped right past nice. I am sorry. So we're gonna go back to Argolis because our next goal is to start gathering the fragments of love. Now that we have basically almost everything we need to finish the game. And we need the Orb of Gree here. The orb here reveals hidden walls, or rather doors, in the wall. And you do get hints as to where things are from NPCs. That is definitely one thing that this game really has going for it. The NPCs are actually incredibly useful. So if you're ever playing this casually, definitely talk to NPCs. Here's our first fragment of love. Get a little bit of information on what's going on here. Story, story, story. So now that we have that first fragment of love, there's another guy in the game who says, I have something that you'll need, but I want you to prove to me that you're actually who you say you are. So that fragment of love actually serves as proof. So when we go talk to him, he'll give us a key that we need for the second fragment of love. Coming up here really shortly is actually a bit of a deviation from the record route, or rather the super speedrun route. We're gonna go over here and talk to Athena, who has a very useless shield. By the way, you see that shield on our sprite right now? Right now it does literally nothing. Now it does kind of something. It still effectively does nothing, though. It's a pretty useless shield. So here's the key guy I was talking about earlier. He'll give us the key, and now we can use that to get the second fragment of love. And now we're gonna get the ocarina out and get ready to fight Gaia here. Ocarina wakes it up. Don't want to hit it too much because then it'll fall off the edge there and be kind of annoying. So here's Thea, a very dangerous area. Unfortunately, that bird didn't drop anything, so it is going to respawn. Alright, easy. I actually do want to be taking a little bit of damage here, but like nothing's giving me a really easy opportunity to take a hit. So I think for my Death Warp coming up here, I am going to actually run back out and jump into a pit rather than tell Hephaestus what I think about his shins. Anyway, so we are in Thea right now, indeed. We're gonna take this sword, and we're just gonna do a Death Warp here, but because of where we're at right now with our health, it's actually gonna be faster if I just do this. And now that we actually don't care about our olives anymore, we can actually start to use Death Warps pretty effectively. We'll actually be doing it twice in here in Thea. I don't mind taking some hits here because I am going to be Death Warping again pretty soon. Just need to make sure I'm alive and able to actually get to the second fragment of love. Do a sword swing there, just to make it so that the centaur is more nicely timed. You have to jump into the waterfall there to actually get into the top of it. Here's our second fragment of love. And now we're just going to go to this right wall and spam some shots and die. So that we can get back to here faster, because our next destination... Oh no! Okay, that's unfortunate, but it's okay. Again, we don't care about our olive count anymore, so anytime we die we can just hit continue with really not that much of a consequence. Okay. We're gonna take this Pillar of the Sun to go back to Laconia. And now we're gonna cross the sea to go over to Crete, which is a very, very annoying maze place. Thankfully we're speedrunning, so we know how to get through it, but if you are playing this casually, Crete does wind up being quite a pain, and I would not blame anyone who ever uses a map. In fact, if you are ever playing this game casually, please for your own sake, use a map in Crete. So, this guy's really excited about his axe, really wants to show it to us, but we just don't have the time right now. And pretty much that's the same story for everything in Crete. For the most part, we just jump over everything. And I'm going to enter this door in from the right side for the momentum, so I don't have to duck under that ghost. And then same thing for here, so I can actually do this. And then I'm going to stop here. Whoops, okay, I kind of freaked myself. Oops, alright, I'm freaking myself out here. There's a bit of an audio cue there. If you just listen closely to the hit sound, there's a really easy timing that you can get for keeping that Minotaur stun locked. That I did not have until yesterday, so oops. Shoutouts to learning things a lot later. Anyway. Yeah, that Minotaur is pretty obnoxious, but if you keep it stun locked, there's kind of like two distinct sounds to the hit sound effect, and if you just strike again on the higher pitch of the two, then that happens to time pretty well with keeping it stun locked. So this guy's so excited to show us his axe that he's actually going to walk on water to do it, but again, we just really don't have the time to look at that axe right now. And left, left, right, left to get through these. And here's Cerberus. You have to kill... He only has like 2 heads here instead of like the 3 that he would probably canonically have. It regenerates health is the biggest thing. So you need to make sure you keep it stun locked. If I die anywhere on these next 2 screens, I'm going to have to do the entire section here of Tartarus again, taking me back through Cerberus. So it's really important that I don't fall into a pit here. Oh god. A little bit scared about that bubble. I think I would have been fine even if that bubble did hit me. Alright, so we just hit a checkpoint. And these next 2 screens here are the absolute hell screens. We'll see how lucky I am today, how nicely they treat me. And... okay. A little bit rough, but we're okay. I'm actually going to take a death here, because this is a checkpoint. And yeah, the Divine Sword is really important. Fiesel and I tested quite thoroughly. And yeah, no, it's ridiculous in terms of a human run to try and do the fairy sword for the entire path. I'll be showing why, but basically the final boss, we need to be keeping our distance from him and shooting it with lightning in the shins, which I'll probably explain a little bit in the credits. So here's Hades' Temple. This first screen here is the hardest. And I got it, okay. Those jumps are really tricky because if you take a hit from the Lamia, it's okay if it's a shot from the arrow, but if you take a body check, you actually just have to go back and take a death and start over, or start the temple over again. So if I am not practiced on that, it can be pretty nasty. The rest of these screens are really cool to execute. I like this temple a lot. It's fun. And here we want to stay locked on the stairs so that if we do take a hit from the gargoyles, we don't get knocked back into the pit, which is literally where we just came from, but it's still a death pit. Classic game logic. Take a little bit of a damage boost here. Stop on the third stair. And now we're going to equip the flask because we're going to do a bunch of crouching lightning shots, so I'm going to be quiet here for a bit. And there we go. 30-23. If I didn't have those shenanigans in Laconia, that would have been a sub-30 marathon. So, just a little bit about that crouching lightning as I am going through this final dialogue here and getting to the credits. If you hold down and then press B and immediately tap up, you'll actually shoot a projectile while crouching. And so if you do 28 of those, you will be able to kill Hades like that. And yeah. That is the Battle of Olympus. Thank you, Retrothon, for allowing me to play this here. And I hope you all had a really enjoyable experience watching this final game in the Battle of Olympus block.